Welcome to Real Talk, Real Wellness with Alicia. I'm Alicia, a woman's holistic wellness practitioner, and this podcast is where we get real, no fluff, no filters about what it truly takes to feel well physically, mentally, and emotionally. Let's dive in. Today, we're back with the wellness seat. This is the hot seat. And a space where I invite people working within the wellness industry and those with inspiring wellness journeys to share their real stories and real insights. And today's guest is someone I really enjoy talking with. We're working on a project together, and our project meetings always turn into a deep, layered conversation. So I'm super happy she's here to share her wisdom with all of us today. Eve, welcome to the Wellness Seats. It's such a joy to have you here. Let's start by having you introduce yourself and share a little bit about what you do and what led you into the world of wellness and healing work.
Oh, thank you. That was such a lovely introduction. So I really appreciate that. And thank you for
Welcome.
having me on the Wellness Seat. It's definitely a huge pleasure and honor. But for those who don't know me, which will be many, my name's Eve, and I am the founder of Uplift with Her. And Uplift with Her is a wellness coaching and therapy service. It's just me, but it's built to help the ordinary person through change and transformation and transition in their life. And me as a person, I wear many hats, but the one that brought me to where I am today is the hat of vision. And I guess what I mean by that is I've always had like a very clear kind of vision of who I am and what I want to be in the future. And I've just been trying my best to get myself to that point so I can meet me in that journey. And it kind of stemmed from me always wanting to help people, to be honest. I used to want to be a teacher, and I think that came from my grandmother. I think that's what my mum used to say anyway, growing up. And then I wanted to be a businesswoman, but it was all of these ideas were wrapped around this initial kind of like seed of wanting to help people and knowing that I had this voice, not really knowing how that was going to unfold in my life and where that was going to take me, really. But vision is definitely the thing that helped me move through all of the cycles of my life. So I ended up going into recruitment thinking, from this business hat, Eve, that I wanted to be this, this suited and booted, really impressive Black woman in business. And I worked really hard, actually, and I achieved a lot. But the moment I was given the role that I worked so hard to achieve, it was actually at that point that I blew up my whole world and threw it away. And I dived into education and requalified myself. And that was a really big pivot for me in life. It was a huge moment for me. And it's led me to exactly where I am today, meeting myself and meeting those versions of myself that I've been looking at and aspiring to become. And that led me to throwing myself into psychology. I did a psychology master's up north in Chester, which was lovely. And then I also threw myself even deeper into the world of OT. And that was because for me, psychology was all the lovely stuff that my brain like thrives on, all the stuff that helps me to kind of answer the questions of why people, think the way that they think. But I knew I wanted to kind of transcend that and work within a space that was more functional and proactive, and not too cerebral.
Mm.
So OT really gave me that balance. It gave me all of those. OT was kind of a wild card for me, to be honest, because I
Mm.
didn't know that that was where I was going to go with life, but it kind of ended up me going down that direction because of a very lovely conversation I had with my eldest sister, and she helped me along the way and pointed me into this direction. And now I feel like, with psychology as one background and OT as my predominant field that I practice in, it's given me this very unique perspective that I now utilize in whichever work I explore. And that's just a really nice space to be in, because it feels like I'm utilizing all of my passions. So the psychology, which kind of like fills my brain with all of the interesting things to thrive, but then the OT part of it is kind of like my gut, my intuition going, yeah, this is the part that I can really work around and be holistic and play around with and meet people where they are in a very functional way. So, I mean, that alongside all of my lived experiences I've been going through over the years,
Mm.
it's really kind of added to all of the experience that I have now as a person, as well as a professional. So that's a
Yeah.
little bit about me.
Yeah. So, what it sounds like to me is that you have collected all these jewels and you have brought them together to produce something quite amazing. If you like, you've it's very holistic. I can relate to what you're saying. I did the exact same thing, just
Mm,
not, it's almost like you went through this, your life, and like I said, you've collected all these things, and now you're sort of like a master of what it is that you want to share and give to the world. Am I here? Is that correct? Is that what I've heard? You're now ready to share what you have learned, share the gifts, share the jewels that you have cultivated. Is that correct?
absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, 100%, 100%. And I joke with friends sometimes, because
Mhm.
sometimes it did feel like I was collecting infinity stones, the way I was walking through
Yeah,
all
that's
of the
what,
courses
it's
I
funny. I was
did.
thinking about that. That's what was in my head as you were talking.
But exactly that. It's knowing that there were all of these different places I needed to kind of
Mm,
master, so that I was able to give this really lovely, robust, holistic offering. So yeah, that's absolutely spot on.
yeah. Now, I know that you have, in our conversations, you've described your path as a dual one of self healing and one of helping others heal. What did that look like for you personally, and how did those two paths come together in your work?
Yeah, I love that question. That's really lovely.
Mm.
I I started actually in counselling.
Mm.
So I moved to Manchester when I was really young, in my 20s, and didn't really know where to start. But I knew I needed to start somewhere. So I threw myself into a mini counselling course at the
Mm.
Manchester University. And that that just opened up my world, to be honest, because
Mm.
that's when I learned about the works of Carl Rogers
Yeah.
and person-centered theory. And it's just fantastic to be able to kind of see people within a model that actually centers their needs, who they are, and to not make them a number or some kind of functional thing that we need to fix and work on.
Mm-hmm.
So that was just really lovely, because it made sense to me, but it
Mm-hmm.
also spoke to my humanistic approach to life as
Yeah.
well.
Yeah.
So I used myself as my first client, because they
Okay.
encouraged you to do that in counseling.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and it just stuck with me. I really took it literally. And that was brilliant for me because it changed my life. Just
Mm-hmm.
holding on to that perspective of using myself as my first client. So I spent a lot of time at the Buddhist Centre in Manchester. I went to a 3 hour class called
Mm-hmm.
Tools for Living. And it was exactly that. They would give you meditation techniques, which specifically concentrated on the breath, how you use the breath to kind of understand your body and to create more awareness and
Mm-hmm.
to cultivate peace and compassion.
Mm-hmm.
And just that physical space was so peaceful. It became really, really safe for me to just be able to go there and sit with my pain. And I had a lot of pain, but it really helped me to just sit with my pain and to accept it, which
Mm-hmm.
is something I run away from. We don't want to look at our pain. We don't want to acknowledge it's there. But to even accept it was, yeah, probably one of the biggest journeys I had to go through. But that enabled me to build myself up from the inside out.
Mm-hmm.
And moving past the pain in one moment was shortly lived, because then you start to feel your body. um, and that's another type of pain that you then have to acknowledge and you then have to sit with, because emotional pain is one thing, but then that manifests in the body in different ways too.
Yes.
So
Yes.
absolutely, the body definitely keeps the score.
The body
So
definitely keeps the score.
yeah.
Definitely. On the topic of meditation, we have discussed in the past, um, meditation is not something to be done, but something to be experienced. That's such a beautiful statement to me. What does that mean in practice? And how can we begin to experience meditation as a living process rather than just a task, another thing to do?
Yeah. So I'm a huge advocate for meditation, because
Mm-hmm.
it's for me.
Mm-hmm.
It continues to work for me. And I do believe that meditation is not something to be done, but something to be experienced. And I always tell people about the wonderful benefits of meditation. But what I do come across is a lot of quick pill culture. We're a nation addicted to taking pills because we want short term gratification and
Yeah.
short term fixes. And that is not meditation. Meditation uses the breath, uses it in a slow, methodical, and meaningful way. Even just the process of slowing down the breath, paying attention to the breath.
Yeah.
It's this proactive action of an experience that you're having whilst you're
Mm-hmm.
sitting, and putting enough space around that, to be able to reap the benefits of slowing down your heart rate,
Mm. Yeah.
of
The impact it has on your parasympathetic nervous system um,
absolutely.
is is amazing. I mean, I think most of us practice, is it meditation or sort of understand how to calm that. The other day, I was talking to someone and it was quite a tense conversation. And I took a really deep sigh, like, you know, and that
Yeah.
in itself, just the deep sigh is releasing it's that impacts your parasympathetic nervous system. That triggers it, just the sigh. And we do it all the time. So I think,
Yeah.
sometimes though we're talking about meditation, I look at meditation in terms of how it does impact our physical being. So it's a practical tool that you can use to
Mm-hmm.
on your wellness journey. Um, but
Absolutely.
also there's little things that we just naturally do that's innate within our beings just to bring us back into that space, um, back into that equilibrium, when we're stressed, bring us back. And for me, it was just really funny that she said that was, just a big sigh. And I just felt the release in my body
Mhm.
when I did sigh. um so
Absolutely.
yeah, sorry to interrupt you, but that just came to my
No,
mind. So
no,
yeah,
that's
meditation, it's to me, it's one of the tools that we must sort of um implement, if you like, or use, take advantage of. It's free.
absolutely. It's cheaper as well than buying medications,
It
but
sure
it's
is.
something to be experienced for a long right. It's something you have to practice for a long time to
Mm,
actually like reap the benefits from.
yeah.
And you're right, we do it so innately. Our bodies are constantly trying to bring us back into that balanced nervous system. It's
Mm-hmm.
trying to reduce our cortisol. It's trying to lessen the effects of depression and anxiety.
Mm-hmm.
That those big sighs in the frustrating moments or the really emotional moments, because my sister did that. We were having this lovely conversation yesterday,
Yeah.
and we started talking about some sad things that have happened in life, and she took this really deep sigh. So when you were saying that, it just she came to my mind, and we both stopped and just recognized that she had sighed, because it's such an impactful thing. It's not just something that impacts the person that's doing it. It does have an impact on the person within that space as well. And then you kind of stop and pause and recognize, and it brings that awareness back into what's happening, the
Mm.
shared experience,
Yeah.
which is beautiful. But I
Yeah.
think if you practice listening to your body consistently and take in, deep breaths that go into your diaphragm, that's the most important part of meditation, I think, because we walk around having shallow breaths all the time.
Oh
We're
my
constantly
gosh.
from one
Yeah.
moment to another, right?
Oh, listen, I
Right.
breath for me is the first cycle that we experience as physical beings when we separate ourselves from our mothers. The breath
Yeah.
is the first cycle of life. It is so important. And I think not enough information is out there. And we've all heard of breath work, but we don't really get into the real um, deep layers of what breath work is and how we aren't really sort of tapping into the potentials of conscious breathing, right? It's
Yeah.
the healing potentials, the
Mhm.
um just holistically, just throughout your being. And I mean, every morning I wake up, I've got to do some conscious breath work. I've got to do breath work. And for me, it's real deep for me, breath, because
Mhm.
when I went through my own personal um, trauma, if you like, of losing someone who was very dear to me, who I've spoken to you about that before. Um,
Mhm.
and I had to return to breath. I had
Yeah.
to really focus on my breathing because my lungs were affected. And when because of the loss, because of the grief, right?
Yeah.
I wasn't breathing properly. I started to really shallow breathe a lot and wheezing. And I thought, what is this? But it was part of the grieving process. That's what like you said, the body keeps score, doesn't it? Um,
Yeah.
and that's how the grief wanted to manifest in my body. So I was almost forced to return to breathing, breath work, or conscious breathing, conscious breath work to aid me through
Mm.
that difficult time. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Wow, that's powerful. And that's And that's the advocacy in this, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Because when you know it works, when you felt the beautiful effects of breathing and
Mm-hmm.
conscious breathing and creating that space within the self, you can't live life any other way.
Yeah.
It just doesn't make any sense, because we can't just live as just a human meat sack. It's not enough. It's really not enough,
It is.
because life happens, and just like you say, just like you've said, you lose people along the way. For me, it was a health illness,
Mm.
and then life continues to compound things on top of that. Then you lose people on top of that, and then you have to go through more health things, and then you're living with constant pain and grief in your body, in your heart, in your emotions, in your well-being, everywhere. And so, just like what you said so eloquently and so beautifully, it's that conscious breath that really helped to provide that space for you to acknowledge what was happening in your body.
Mm.
And I think that's the important thing about breathing. I think people think it's this pill that's going to fix everything. And actually, long term, it definitely does. It really does help with anxiety. It really does help with lessening the effect. And we go through so many different forms of grief, but it also, helps to regulate the nervous system and cortisol levels.
Yeah.
But in the meantime, it's just bringing you back to yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And I think if people looked at it like that, then they'll probably have better results quicker, to be
Yeah.
honest, because
Yeah.
I think we put meditation on this pedestal because of all of the lovely holistic gurus that we see everywhere. But when we really think about it, it's just sitting with yourself and creating space, creating time so
Yeah.
that you can just pour into yourself in a way that no one else. Um, so that's, yeah, I love it. I really love it, and I'm such a big advocate, and I know you are too. And so I love that we can always have these conversations.
Yep.
Oh, I love it.
I love our conversations, girl. Okay, so moving on a little bit. Um, so standing firm in power and pride. This year's theme of standing firm in power and pride ties beautifully into your work. What does standing firm mean to you as a woman, as a wellness practitioner? Do you call yourself a wellness practitioner? I call you that, but I've never actually heard you call yourself that.
Yeah, it's funny because I technically don't, to be honest.
Mm.
I think I don't really define myself as one thing, but
Mm.
that I think it's just because I wear so many different hats.
Yeah, yeah.
But that also describes me. So
Mhm,
it's
mhm.
not
I
something
think
that I
so.
would ever reject. Yeah, absolutely.
Mm.
Um, so yeah, that feels like something I can definitely identify with as well, 100%.
Mm.
Um, but yeah, this theme, it's really interesting because I feel like it's come at such a poignant time with
Mm.
everything that's happening socially speaking here in the UK.
Yeah.
And personally, for myself, I I believe in standing by my convictions, and that's how this year's statement speaks to me. Um, I've always been the person that said, like, if I'm going to say I'm going to do something, I do it. I stick to my word. Your word is so important in life, I feel. So following through with actions is how you generate more power in who you are, and produce more legitimacy in where you're going.
Mm.
Because if you say what you're doing and follow that through with actions, it's you're showing yourself the fruits of your own labor.
Yeah.
Um, but naturally life comes and throws all of those things out the window sometimes, as we know. So I also believe in appreciating where you're at in whichever space you find yourself in your journey.
Mm.
So it's between those two things, and that's really what standing firm in power and pride means to me this year. I think people often feel like they haven't done enough maybe in life, and this sometimes really impacts their life choices. So with
It's
this year's,
it's
yeah, go
funny,
ahead.
um, when you say people feel like they haven't done us enough. Sometimes I was talking with um my husband the other day, and I said just that.
Really.
Sometimes yeah, people feel like they haven't done enough. I was actually talking about myself, but then I extended it to maybe other people possibly could feel the same
Mm-hmm.
way. And
Yeah.
what he said to me was, have you really actually thought about the things that you've done in your life? Have you
Mm.
actually sort of wrote things down so you can like see what you have done? So I thought, you know what, I'm going to do that. And, I think if anyone out there is struggling with the idea that they maybe have not done enough in their lives, maybe write down the things that you have done in your life.
I
The
like
things,
that.
the things that really sort of matter, and just write down anything that sort of comes to mind and show yourself
Mm.
what you have done. It's so easy to sort of um, skim over your life and say, well, but when I wrote it down, so much, there was just so much. And I thought, wow, and I'm only 52
Mm.
and this is what I've
Yeah.
done. Wow.
Yeah.
Sorry. I thought I'd just come in with that because I thought that was, you know, a really interesting moment for me.
Absolutely. Because and it completely aligned, really, didn't it?
Mm,
Because you've been experiencing that conversation, and Alicia, you know me. I'm probably my worst critic at best. I've gone through my entire life pushing myself so hard
mm,
to the point where the only moment I gave myself a break was literally when I broke my knee. And
yeah.
I think that was the first time I really understood what self care was, what rest meant, what compassion really feels like.
Mm,
And and I don't know how how that sits with me, knowing that I had to be pushed to that point to be able to really lean into that space. But
when you
yeah, I
say
think
learn what compassion meant, do you mean compassion for yourself?
yes,
Okay.
absolutely,
Okay.
yeah, absolutely. It's so easy to diminish everything that you have achieved just because
Mhm.
one thing has come and changed or altered your
Mm,
current experience. And yeah, absolutely. When I say people, that definitely includes myself because that's something I've always constantly battled with. I've been hyper independent and gritting and bearing through life to fight and strive for all the things I have now, which I feel very blessed and grateful to have. But it came cost. It came at putting aside my health. It meant not leaning into relationships. It meant moving to different places in the country,
mm,
which means you have to put friendships on pause
mm,
sometimes, and that's
mm,
the reality of it. Which means you're far away from family and sometimes completely isolated and having to rebuild constantly. And that really does come at a cost. And so it's very easy to um, feel like you haven't done enough when those moments make you feel like you're having to rebuild from scratch all over again and build from nothing. But you're never building from you're never building from zero,
No.
especially if you've already kind of achieved your goals, or whatever it is that you had set in mind for yourself last year, or whatever it might be. You've already kind of built from some level of experience. So just like what you're saying, make sure you write those things down, because I think we do often forget in those moments just how much we've achieved and how positive those impacts might be to other people. You might be a role model to someone, or you might have already inspired someone else to relocate, or to take action on something that was a goal that they hadn't achieved in their life, or even just to lean into rest. And it could be small things, it could be large things, but you're impacting yourself, you're impacting your future choices and other people's choices sometimes, just by you living life.
Mm.
So yeah, not forgetting all of those lovely things that you've achieved is really, really important. Because I think as a people, as Afro-Caribbean people from the motherland, we have come so far, full stop, point blank, period. And we are now the rebirth in some way of our ancestors. And we're
Mm.
still elevating, we're still overcoming. And literally, there's no one else that can do it like how we do it.
Mm.
Literally, we are the creators, the alpha, the omegas. You know,
We
it's
are.
um it's who we are, it's what we do, it's in our genetics.
Yeah.
So we
I
have to
always
remember.
I always say we are the created and the creators. We are the
Yes,
created of our ancestors, and we are creating our
yeah.
descendants and the experiences that they have. I believe that when I look at life and I look at what I want to, um, what I want to leave here
Mm,
when I leave, I look at 7 generations forwards, what do I want my family to remember of me 7 generations
mhm.
in time, you know, because we are creating them now, aren't we? We're creating the future. And,
Mm,
when you sit and think about that, this is why I'm doing this today with you. You know,
yeah,
I want to, I'm thinking about, you know, how many years from now this might be really helpful to somebody, you know.
yes.
So we're hopefully creating something beautiful and impactful right now, you
I
know.
believe it.
I believe it,
Absolutely.
you know. So yeah, sorry to butt in there again. You know how we do our
No,
conversations. You know what it's
I know how. Yeah, yeah, I love it.
all right. I've got another question for you. Okay,
Go
so
for it.
healing on healing on the margins. Much of your work supports people who are often overlooked or on the fringes, sorry, of society. What have you learned about healing resilience and community through working with those people?
Mm. Oh, I love this question. So I mean, my background over the last 7 years has been within like mental health,
Mm,
and worked with men in secure mental health wards,
yeah.
um, from like a forensic and mental health background. I've worked with women from, an exploitative, forced labor and forced migrant lived experience. I currently work with children with disabilities and
Mm.
also now women in the community.
Yeah.
So from all of that lived experience, um, I think the biggest lesson I've learned that I've taken away from all of that is to give unconditional positive regard.
Ooh, have we lost you? We lost you for a minute.
It threw us out, didn't it?
Welcome back. Continue, Eve.
It's one of those days. Well, it's pouring outside. I'm snuggling up indoors, trying to keep myself as warm as possible, and Zoom is the thing that throws everyone off course.
But yeah, we were talking about community and healing, resilience, and working with um, people on the fringes of society.
Yes, yes. I was saying the biggest thing that I've taken away from working in those spaces is
Mm,
to unconditional positive regard
yeah.
to people. It's so important. It's so important.
How do
But
you
it's
do
all
that? How do you do that?
okay.
How does Eve do
So
that?
how do I do this? Yeah, because
Mm,
this is genuinely something I heard as a phrase, but had to really apply as a skill. So it
yes.
is something to practice quite a lot. But
Yeah.
how I do it is I understand that person from like a visual perspective because I'm a very visual learner. So
Mm,
I visually see the person as them, holistically them.
mm,
They are not bad. They are not evil. They are not the things that they project. I try and the reason I'm able to hold on to that is because I ask pertinent questions around who they are. I sit
mm,
with them, I speak with them and understand um, their character, where they've come from, who they really are behind possibly the maladaptive behaviors, because a lot of people have had to live in survival mode coming from like a forensic mental health background or a disabilities background or a forced labor background. You're constantly living in your threat response. So that's gonna come with some like negative behaviors. And it's just remembering that that's not who the person is. And so
mm,
I visualize them as just who they are, minus all of the stuff that life has like impacted them with. So that's how I do it. I visualize them as themselves. I ask questions to try and understand them behind the behaviors.
mm.
Um, and then on top of that, I try to maintain a neutrality in how I approach them.
Yeah.
And that is probably the hardest skill out of all of
Yes.
them.
This is why I asked you. It is hard to, for me, it's separating the person from maybe the behavior. And
Yeah,
do you know what I mean? And, you know, you don't, and just understanding that you don't have to approve of, their choices or, um, you know, their actions to care. And for
yes,
me, that's been a big one for me too, because we're human, right? So you
yeah,
naturally see someone's behavior and you're like, oh, see, that's them, can't stand
yeah,
that. That's, but to, like you said, sort of come outside of that. I say, you come
mm,
outside of yourself and you look down at myself and that person. And
mm,
I don't mean to say this in a bad way, but I sort of call it the God perspective. Like you're
mm,
overseeing everything. You're overseeing that person's actions, and you're asking yourself what's going on behind that for that
Yeah.
person to do that. And how am I, outside of myself, receiving that? And how can I
Mm.
help that? How can I help that person? How can I be a little rose quartz crystal to that person?
Absolutely. I love that because it's taking on the perspective of curiosity. I think
Mm-hmm.
that's definitely something when you're wanting to impact someone else's life in a positive way, and trying to stay neutral is difficult.
Mm-hmm.
If you depersonalize whatever is happening to you in that moment and say this is not happening to me because they're doing it because it's me, then it takes away that sting, and then you can remove that trigger because it's no longer happening to you personally. It's happening kind of around you, but it's not about you, it's about that person's experience. And then you can look outwardly again and say, well, where is this coming from? I wonder what has happened to that person. Was there
Mm-hmm.
something that happened? Is there something that they need from me right now, which
Yes.
is why they're reacting in this way towards me?
Yes.
Maybe this is actually a cry for help, and
Yes.
that's why they're treating me this way.
Yeah. But it's
So
hard.
I love that. It's so hard.
It's hard to do because, we're all human, and we're all, no one's perfect. And, this is the human experience,
Yeah,
but yeah, unconditional
yeah,
positive regard is a big one.
yes,
Okay. I got another question for you. So you've
yeah.
spoken about being neurodivergent and living with a long-term health conditions in our conversations. Me and Eve have conversations outside of this conversation. So we speak, and Eve has shared that with me. So, how has that shaped your approach to wellness, both personally and in um, the way you hold space for others? We sort of touched on it a little bit in the last question, but
Yeah.
yeah.
It really stems from my own experiences. I'll be honest in saying that, because I always felt like I was misunderstood.
Mm-hmm.
Just growing up, always felt just misunderstood. And on the inside, I felt like I just understood the world differently. I understood people differently. And I didn't really see that as a positive growing up. Now I'm like, wow, that's like my superpower. So that's great.
Mm-hmm.
But not how I interpreted having cognitive differences. Um, and it showed up in the way that I asked questions. It showed up in the ways that I connected with people, and people connected with me. Even till this day, I'm that person that people just share things with. I'll be at a bus stop, for instance, and there's a lovely older lady might be next to me, and we end up talking about something that happened like 35 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
And it turned to be a hello that we exchanged. And so that's quite a unique, like,
Mm-hmm.
aura
Yeah.
around with myself.
Yeah, definitely.
Which,
I
yeah,
can attest to that. It's
yeah.
true. You definitely
I
have
love that.
that.
Yeah. I appreciate that, because it's definitely something, as I said, like growing up, that just felt very, very heavy to carry. It felt probably more like a burden than what it feels like now. But now I because I masked for such a long time, I'm now unmasking as an adult, because I understand what's going on with my brain. I understand the dyslexia. I understand the tisms, the ADHD that is definitely undiagnosed, but I understand enough about it, working in the field that I do, to understand how it is, how how my brain manifests
Mm.
ADHD and autism as a woman. So I lead knowing that is, again, my superpower, because it means that I've all of this pattern recognition that I'm able to see in how people function, in their behavioral aspects, or if it's looking at patterns and graphs. It's definitely something I probably took for granted, as I mentioned, growing up. But now I'm leaning into those strengths, and I just feel so grateful and privileged to be able to practice in a field where I can now show up for other people, because I recognize and accept and completely acknowledge the things that I am, and I can put a name to them, and I can, yeah, it can be bold about that and stand in that power. So that's something that's very new. It's come with, again, lots of learned lessons along the way. But yeah, it came from places of not being given the grace, and so now I give grace in heaps. In heaps. Yeah.
Oh, that's nice. I mean, that's isn't that what we're supposed to do? Are we not? I did a episode of Real Talk, Real Wellness podcast on acceptance and the process of accepting and the beauty of stepping into the process of acceptance, the beauty or the residue of acceptance is that you now can have the same grace and the same patience and understanding for somebody else. You know, that's what I found in my journey of acceptance, is that I now have a level of understanding, and I can help someone through that process of acceptance too. Do you feel that? I hear that's what you're saying to a degree.
100%. I think we're mirroring each other. I think that we've both gone into these industries in these fields for that reason, and yeah, that absolutely resonates with me.
Definitely. Okay, so I love your sessions around colorful words and helping women to reconnect to their voice. Why do you think so many women lose touch with their inner voice, and how can they begin to reclaim it?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I think the world is not designed for women.
Oh, girl. You know,
that's the end of that.
We've had this 4-hour conversation, haven't we?
We have.
But go
yes,
on.
we have. That's it, though, isn't it? The world is not designed for women. That's it. Like it's a horrible statement to proclaim and to put out there, right? But from our period products to, you know, the safety mechanisms in cars, like nothing's built for us or in mind of us. Even the things for us aren't built with us included, and it's just it's abhorrent. I can't understand what happened in society. It really fails us in a.
Oh, we've lost her again. She will be back, folks. Hi.
Hello again.
Hi, darling. It's because you were going there. You're going there now. So this is why we're getting this disturbance.
Yes, lock it off. Yeah, I was just saying, you know, it's completely tailored towards, you know, the male experience, what we know. So, you know, when a woman finds her voice, personally, I think that is an act of activism, because for a system to oppress and suppress the voices, the needs of a population, of a demographic, women, to raise and to rise up irrespective of all of those things is the purest and the most beautiful form of activism.
Mm.
And when we look at our history of storytelling,
Hi.
I think I was saying every song in Africanism, this the colourful words, this is that theme that kind of continues to kind of flourish in the way that I'm trying to build my songs. It's in our words. It's in that
Um,
connection.
we're missing your. I've missed a couple of words. I've missed a little bit of what you were saying. You went out for a minute. Um,
Oh, sorry.
it's okay. Just continue. Just flow, girl. You know how we do. Just
Yeah,
flow. Keep it flowing.
yeah. No, I was just saying, oh, I don't know what part that I dropped out of. I was just saying that it's just not designed for us.
Yeah.
It's designed for men, and so to have a voice in a completely suppressed female voice and needs is a
Mm.
form of activism.
Yeah.
And I think as African people
Mm.
and carrying that history
Yeah.
of storytelling and song
Mm.
and rhythm in our body,
Mm.
as well as how we express our voices, that's where we carry our power as women. And
Yes.
so reclaim that is, I believe, how we make ourselves whole again.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Definitely. Oh, this subject we can speak on for hours, but
I know.
you know how I feel. Um,
Yeah,
you know how I feel, so I'm not even going to go into it. That's a whole. We will need to come back together and speak on that separately.
well, I will say this though, because I know even within your field,
Mm,
like even how we look at the voices of older women in
mm,
society,
mm,
it's like we become phased out men and become like just caregivers. But actually, no, that's that there's so many people that have other theories around or just perceptions around the importance of women
mm.
once they have evolved past menopause. And
Oh
in some
gosh.
cultures, elders are looked
Mm,
at libraries. So,
mm.
there is a saying where if you lose someone who is an elder in your community, you have lost a library.
Well, yes. Um, how that shows up here in the West, I don't think it really
Yeah,
does
it
because
does.
you know I work with um, menopausal and perimenopausal women, and one of the it's we can talk about the different things that we can do in order to support a woman through the process of perimenopause and menopause.
Yeah.
um
Mhm.
I work in a layered way, so we tackle maybe looking at various different HRTs, lifestyle, or BHRTs, lifestyle. We look at various different things. The hardest thing is helping a woman understand that she is stepping into powerful, one of the most creative times in her life, alongside
Mm,
this physical experience that she's having, this very difficult physical experience that she's
yeah.
having. She's actually going through the process of being reborn. You see, the early years
Mm,
are for physical creation, bringing life into this world. But now that's not her portion anymore. I'm
Yeah.
still a creative being. Still a creative
Yeah.
being. So, what are you going to create? What are you going to do? And for me, this is it.
Mm-hmm.
You know, this is it, connecting with women like yourself. This is what I've chosen to do with this next part of my life. This creative part of my life. I've chose to
Yeah.
connect with women like yourself. I've chose to work with women, and really just show them that this is the beginning, baby
Mm.
girl. You're going through a difficult time, yes. Um, but when you balance that out, when you have got yourself together physically, there's so much out there for you, so much.
Yeah.
And that's a big thing for me. Um,
Yeah.
that's huge. It's almost like an opportunity. I did a video a way back, and I can't remember what it was called, but it was centered around this, just understanding the blessings that come with growing older as women.
Yeah.
You know, I've started to embrace my gray hair. I'm giving
Mm.
myself grace around not having the desire to go to the gym every day, or do you know what I mean? I'm giving myself grace and
Mm-hmm.
patience, um and just feeling very excited about the future and what I can continue to share with other women like yourself,
Mm.
with other
Yeah.
people in
Oh,
general, you know. And yeah, so yeah, that's a big thing.
oh, that's a really powerful thing. I love that.
Mm, definitely. But yeah, I want you to come back and we have a conversation around that topic, and really sort of dig deep about women and how we are viewed, um, how we are showing up, what we have to sort of um, deal with or combat in order to
Mm.
just show up and be women, um,
Yeah.
in
Oh,
the
I'd love
truest
that.
in the truest sense of the word, of what it means to be feminine.
Mm.
The truest, not someone's
Mm.
opinions of femininity,
Mm-hmm.
but what it truly
Yeah.
means to be a feminine, the manifestation
Mm.
of a divine feminine, what that actually looks
Wow.
like. So yeah, we'll do that if you don't mind. We'll do that one day.
You to come back. You know me. Yeah, I'd love to. That would.
Good, good. Okay, girl. So coming towards the end now. Words of wisdom. So, for anyone listening who may be um, navigating transition, burnout, or self doubt, what words of wisdom would you leave with them today?
It really kind of follows on from what you last said as well, actually, about giving yourself grace.
Mm,
Because the one piece of advice that I always give to people when they're going through the hardest moments, the most stressful moments in their lives, um, is to give themselves grace
mm,
and to pour more compassion into those moments, because we often don't get that from other people. We go to work and we still have to deal with our colleagues who also might be going through things.
mm-hmm,
So it's really important to pour more compassion into yourself when you're feeling down. Pour more compassion into yourself when you're feeling stressed. pour more compassion into yourself when you're feeling angry, frustrated, neglected, whatever it is. Give yourself more compassion when the world does not. And that can be in the sense of giving yourself real rest, sleeping, taking naps, taking the vitamins that you need, making sure that your minerals are topped up, drinking water often, checking in and making sure that you're talking to the people who can help or will just listen. Tapping into those resources, because we all need them. And sometimes if it means just laying in bed for a whole day and watching Disney movies, please give yourself that grace. You know,
absolutely.
Yeah.
Love
so that's my wisdom that I would give to anyone, because I think we just don't do enough of that. And I think those are the things that we miss, because we're kind of surrounded by all these representations of what self-care really looks like, but we're looking after ourselves, and we're looking after our young teenage self, and we're looking after our young child self in those really gritty, horrible moments. So we have to encompass care for all of those versions, because we can't neglect, you know, young Eve as well as like teenage Eve, as well as like, older Eve who will have the glass of wine, you know.
Hey, Eve.
Hello.
Was there anything else?
Weather's been working with us today, hasn't it?
What's that?
No, I was just saying the weather's really been working with us today, hasn't it?
Well,
really?
Look, it's not as bad as what's going on in the Caribbean right now. So, you know, let's give thanks for that, because they're going through it right now. My Caribbean family, we know you're going through it. Storm Melissa is whooping your ass right now, but you know, we're just hoping everybody is staying safe, and sending lots of love towards you all.
Absolutely. Yeah.
But thank you, Eve. Thank you, my darling, for showing up and putting yourself on the hot seat, the wellness seat. Hope it wasn't too hot for you.
It was spicy. I loved it. I love.
Oh, it's gonna get spicier, girl. Huh? Sorry, what was that?
No, I was just saying it was muy caliente. No, it was brilliant. I loved it, and thank you so much for having me. It's been a pleasure.
You are welcome. So, everybody, if this no, we need to do our journal prompts. Sorry, let's do our journal prompts. So, Eve, I do journal prompts all the time at the end of every episode. So I'm going to share 2 with everybody now. What does stillness mean to me right now? And where in my life am I being invited to pause and listen? That's one. Journal prompt number 1. And number 2, if my inner voice could speak freely, what would she say? And am I ready to truly hear her? Okay. So work through that, guys. And if this episode resonates with you, share it with someone who might need this reminder. And if you're listening on a platform where you can leave a comment or a review, I'd be so grateful if you did so. Until next time, oneness, wholeness, peace.